Hi guys, and welcome to Journeyman episode number 27. And on this one, I'm pretty excited about this. There's a project that I'm working on that I need to cut some Acme screws. So in this episode, I do three things that I've never done before. Number one is I cut a tool that will cut Acme threads. That's number one. Number two, I cut a Acme thread. That's number two. And number three, I cut a left-handed thread. So I'm doing a left-hand Acme thread. Now here's the thing. I know that I can't hand grind it that well. So, guys, I made a little jig that cuts the high-speed steel tool perfectly to make Acme threads. And I did it in aluminum. And I've done it on my high-speed steel, so these are my tests. And guys, it turned out absolutely flawless. I'm shocked at this. If you want to see how I did that, stick around. I'll show you how I did it.
Well, the first thing I did is get some of my pop can aluminum and cut some stock.
Okay, I don't really have a real vise for this, but I got a machinist vise here. I do believe it's handmade, but it's really a good thing. Now what I have is, this is machined from earlier, this is machined, and this is machined. So I'm going to take and finish off that side. So I'm going to take this machined surface and put it up against here, that machined surface down, and okay, and now get this on here.
So right now, my entire job is to square up this piece of aluminum. And so I'm using my Atlas horizontal milling machine with a 3/4 inch end mill.
Boy, that's as smooth as glass. May not look it, but that baby is just super smooth.
Now I'm using some parallels and just once again getting things squared up. And all I'm doing is getting all 6 sides of this cube kind of squared off.
Cleaned up nicely. So I need a couple of angles machined into this thing. The 14.5 degree on the one side, and I'm going to put 10 degrees on the other side. So I started thinking, how can I do this? And then it just came to me. All I need to do, and if you see here, I took the 14.5 and I subscribed it on here. And with that 14.5, all I need to do is have it in this vise turned like that. And now when I mill that, that'll be 14.5. But now for the side relief, I need 10 degrees. And so it just took a lot of thinking about it. I'm going to take this and set it to the cutter on a 10-degree angle. So I'm going to set this up with 10 degrees, clamp that down, and now when I mill it, it'll be a double angle on there. Okay, so the way I made sure that that 14 degrees that I scribed out over on when I was laying it out, I put it in the vise, and now when this is sitting like this, I make sure that when it goes up on the cutter, that it is right square to that, and it is right on that straight up and down. So when I mill straight, it'll be 14.5 degrees. Now this is how I'm getting the 10 degrees on the other axis. So that's tipped in there. Now the whole vise is tipped this way to give me my 10 degrees here. And now we can tighten this baby up and get to cutting. After further review, I needed to twist it this way, not the other angle. I had 10 degrees the other way. So now let's get it clamped down and get to cutting. Let's do a quarter, this is a 1/4 inch end mill. Let's do the first cut. So let's see here. 20 thousandths cut. Try 30 thousandths cut.
And taking a look at it, and so far that the angles look good. And just for a sanity check, I try a cutter in there, a 1/4 inch high-speed steel cutter, and it fits.
All right, lining up the other side now that the first one's cut. Scribed another 14, and I eyeball that level with that, and check this out. It goes right along that scribe line, which is cool. But here's something even cooler with that new set of tools I got. Check this out. All right, I know you can't really see it, but I forgot I had one of these. And let's see if we can get up there and take a closer look without this glare. That's some pretty good eyeballing, that 14.5. Okay, 50 thousandths cut.
Now this brand new 1/4 inch end mill is going through there like butter. That 50 thousandths was nothing. I'm trying not to take too big of cuts because I'm not sure of the rigidity.
All right, one more little operation on it. One more.
Now I said this was my last milling operation, but it's the next to the last. And what I'm doing is putting a little 1/8 inch like register. So I'll have it all flat except for a register so that it can slide on the tool rest.
And now the setup for the final cut for the cutting edge top. Put that at 10 degrees. Now we'll lock that baby down. I just did something that just, oh, yikes. This makes me sick. Oh, thank God. It's just a little bit of a whisker there it took off. Whew. Saved by the sound change. Alright, let's go give this baby a test drive. Alright, over here at my just little regular Craftsman 6-inch bench grinder. This can slide, that little edge right here can rest up against that. And now let's see what happens. Okay, I have a brand spanking new 1/4-inch high-speed steel, and so I'm going to stick her in here, and hopefully all these angles that I calculated should give me the results that I'm looking for, hopefully. Okay, so here we go.
Okay, we've had a problem here. This is Houston, say again.
Okay guys, I have to admit, I was really discouraged when I saw that my angles were not right. And then I thought on it and I realized that my grinding wheel was not true. It was not flat. And so if it has an angle on it, then it puts that angle onto my tool itself. And so I'm testing my theory here on the belt sander. I put a square on it and I see it's cutting exactly where it needs to cut to fix it. And for those of you who are really paying attention, I put a brand new green belt on instead of that old red belt, and this green belt cuts like butter. And once I've seen it cut from the back all the way to the tip, I know I'm good to go. Ta-da! And now let's fix that wobbly tip.
Well guys, I am absolutely stoked. It was just my wheel was off, so that little jig I worked perfect. I mean, that is 29, and then the coup de grace is it fits in the 10, no wiggle. So I'm extremely happy, and I think I might fly a little closer to the sun and try to give it a quick little hone. Starting on the top just because I'm scared to do the cutting edge yet. Wow, that's nice and sharp.
So the Acme threads that I have are worn out. So I bought a commercial tap, and now I'm going to tap this 1/2 by 10. And this is just my test piece to make sure that when I cut my threads, that it fits a standard Acme thread. and the threads turned out perfect. So now it's time to get some aluminum and see if I can cut some Acme threads. And so now I square up the tool and I make sure that it is on center line. And so I chamfer the end and set up for 10 threads per inch. Alright, first thing I did was started it up and made sure that when I engage it, it goes the correct direction, and it does. So let's cut it and see if it's correct. Now guys, I have to admit, when I saw this cutting like this, I knew I had a winner. Now guys, when I finished this up on the last couple of passes, I engaged slightly off the line and I had to stop it, and it chewed up the first like 2 threads, but the rest of them look awesome. And now to check it with something that's been tapped with a commercial tap, and it absolutely fits perfect. Alright guys, I am absolutely super stoked at how well this thing worked. This really is one of my favorite things that I've made so far. You could see how that's on an angle there. And that angle gives you your side relief. And so this coming in gives this angle, and of course since the tool is tipped, it gives you the side relief. You put it in there, grind it, and you stick it in this side, grind it, and you can see that's flat with that. And once again, it's on an angle here. And then when you want to do the tip, you take the thing and you put it like this. And that goes up there and gives the tip the right clearance angle. It's 10 degrees. And I'm so stoked about this, guys. I really just don't know how to contain myself. That first Acme tool that I ground, first left hand thread that I've done, and it worked out perfectly, guys. Had a little problems with the grinding wheel because I didn't realize it, but the grinding wheel was at an angle because it's off. So when I was going in at 90 degrees to it and thinking I'm getting my 14.5, well, I'm getting a different angle, and that's when it clicked. I'm like, oh, let me go onto something that's flat, which was my grinder, and I got it ground, and man, it worked perfect. So this tool is excellent. And just to test to see what I was doing, I have bought a commercial tap, and it's a left hand, which is a half 10. And so I tapped that out first, and then I took my tool, made this just to test to see if it was correct, and it slides in perfectly. I mean, it is just perfect. So I know when I make my bushing with this, that my little tool here, when I cut my Acme left hand threads, it'll work. Just a couple of little things that I learned there when I put the tap in. You can see I chewed it up a little bit. I chewed it up right here, and I was trying to engage it and misengaged, and it caught it right there. The good news is I was able to stop it and pull it out, and so the threads out here are good. So my test worked out perfect, guys. I am so stoked. And matter of fact, the crash kind of tilted that in there, but it didn't mess it up enough to where it messed my threads up because I was just doing some polish cuts. Anyway, I'm excited, guys. I'm excited that my little jig works. Here shows that it works in a commercial made thing. So I'm quite stoked. So with the tap thing that I made and with the commercial thing that they made, so I'm good to go. Okay guys, I don't know if this is the correct way to do it, but this is how I set it up. Since I'm doing left-handed threads, I set the compound, instead of doing like this angle, which we do for right-hand threads, I set it this way, and I set it at 14.5 degrees. Got down there as close as I could, and I set that baby at 14.5 degrees. Now since this was my first time, I was extremely methodical on the way I did this, which is I touched off with the tool onto the work, then I zeroed both dials. And then I made, I went to the end and I dialed in using just the one on the compound. And I was very, very meticulous. When I got to the end of the cut, I would go out 100 back to 0. And once I got it to 0, I would bring this back down. Then I would go back to 0, and that puts me back where I started. Now beforehand I just kind of willy-nilly throw it around here, but I didn't necessarily know. And then I'd get it here, and sometimes I would say I was on the wrong 0. I was 0 too far where I'd gone too far one more in, or I was too far one more out. So I was extremely methodical in how I went with that. I'd go one out to 0, bring it back here, and then I would go one into 0, and then I would bring it in 5 thousandths each time. Now it worked like a champ up until the last couple of cuts. When when I was engaging here, I saw that I missed it by a little bit, and I stopped it on, and it chewed a couple of the first couple of threads off. But that was because of me anticipating and wrongly pulling up. And now I just will be very methodical about that next time as well. But it turned out very well.
Okay guys, I'd like to share a couple of lessons learned. On this little jig turned out perfect on grinding high-speed steel to cut the thread that I want. One thing I realized is if your grinding wheel is not true, you might have the perfect angle, coming into it, but if your grinding wheel is angled, then it's going to screw your angle up. So make sure your grinding wheel, or that your sander or whatever you're going to use, is true. But this thing, it makes it look like a factory grind on the tool. It just, I'm shocked at how well it worked. Also, one of the things I would do differently with this is, instead of me trying to move the whole thing, just keep this thing stationary in there and just move the bit in and out. And of course, on your grinding wheels you want to move them, but on this I would get it close. But when using this jig, get it close, maybe getting remove some of the big material, but then just use this grinding jig. The way I'm going to use it from now on is just fasten that baby down and just move the tool in here until it just grinds it away. And guys, once again, I'm just shocked at how well that this worked. I thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope to see you on the next Journey to Journeyman.